Stop waiting for a breakthrough. Honestly, we've all been conditioned to wait for that one lightning bolt moment where the fog finally lifts and life reorganizes itself. We treat awareness like a light switch flip. Flip it, and the pattern is supposed to vanish. But let's be real. If you've ever had a massive realization in therapy on a Tuesday, only to find yourself falling into the exact same toxic argument on Friday, you know that insight alone doesn't change a thing. Insight is not transformation. Today, we're going to talk about why your aha moments might actually be keeping you stuck and why your loops are more loyal than you realize.
It's a hard truth to hear because we crave that feeling of relief. You know that moment, the body softens, the breath deepens, and for a second it feels like you can finally exhale. But here is the viral trap. Relief is not reorientation. You can feel 10% lighter while still walking 100% in the wrong direction. Think about that one pattern in your life right now, the one that you've solved a dozen times. You can narrate it perfectly. You know it's because of your childhood or your past boss or your personality type. You have the map, but you're still sitting in the driveway. Why? Because insight illuminates the room, but it doesn't move the furniture. It shows you the mess, but it doesn't clean it up.
Most people view their growth like a maze. They think they're looking for an exit, a way to leave their old self behind forever. But growth isn't a maze, it's a labyrinth. In a maze, you can get lost or hit a dead end. In a labyrinth, there is only one path. You aren't lost, you're just on a turn. Every so often, the path opens up. There's space and light, and you feel you finally escaped. You think, I finally made it. Then 6 months later, you hit a turn that feels hauntingly familiar. The same old anxiety, the same I'm not enough sensation. Your first instinct is to panic and say, I'm back at the start. I failed. All that work was for nothing. But you aren't back at the start. You just discovered the structure is bigger than you thought. Patterns aren't problems to be solved. They are the architecture of your identity. You haven't gone backwards. You're just seeing the same turn from a higher floor of the building. If you stop calling the loop a failure, it stops being a prison and starts being a language.
And Paul, the trickiest part is that our loops actually improve. They get classier. You stop having the messy, loud meltdowns of your 20s and start having highly intellectualized withdrawals in your 30s. From the outside, it looks like massive growth. You're using better words, you're staying calm, but the emotional core is identical. You're just wearing the more expensive, socially acceptable version of your old armor.
This is the part most self help gurus ignore. Reflex lives deeper than language. Your prefrontal cortex, the part that reads the books and watches this video, is fast. But your nervous system is ancient. You can upgrade your narrative in an afternoon, but you cannot retrain your nervous system at that same speed. This mismatch is where we feel haunted. We say, I know better, so why am I still doing this? It's because your brain prioritizes safety over clarity. To your nervous system, a familiar hell is often safer than an unfamiliar heaven. Your loops aren't trying to sabotage you, they're trying to protect you. They're loyal to the version of you that needed to survive 10 years ago. They are outdated guardians, if you will, who don't realize that the war is over.
This is why should is the most dangerous word in your vocabulary. I should be past this by now. I've done the work. A single word triggers urgency. Urgency triggers stress. Stress narrows your attention, and narrow attention forces you to lean on your oldest, most ingrained habits. It literally locks the loop. If you want to break a loop, stop trying to fix it with more thinking. Instead, start looking for the half second before the reflex takes over. The tiny tightening in your throat before you apologize for something that wasn't your fault. The heat in your chest before you send that defensive email. That half second is the only place where freedom actually lives. It's small, but it's the only crack where light gets in.
We love the story of Thomas Edison and the light bulb as a moment of genius, of breakthrough, but it wasn't. It was thousands of failed attempts. Edison didn't wait for a breakthrough. He stayed in contact with the failure until the failure itself became boring. He understood the behavior of the material. Most of us interpret not as never. We hit the loop again, get frustrated, and go looking for a saving insight. We buy a new book, find a new coach, or start a new diet. We keep switching the what because we can't stand the how. But transformation doesn't come from escaping a loop. It comes from remaining present with it until the system reveals its secrets. You have to be willing to be bored by your own BS long enough for the pattern to lose its charge.
Exactly. Think about your own life. What if your stuckness isn't a verdict on your character? What if it's just the system asking for more familiarity? Your patterns, whether it's over functioning for everyone else, withdrawing when things get hard, or striving until you burn out, were all at once reasonable responses. They helped you belong when you were a kid. They helped you navigate a world that didn't feel safe. They don't dissolve just because you've named them. They dissolve when the internal conditions that created them finally change. And that takes consistent presence, not just a one-time aha moment.
I want to tell you about a friend I had. Let's call him Mark. Mark changed careers 5 times in 8 years. Each time he'd have a massive breakthrough. He'd say, Paul, this is it. I finally found my true calling. But 18 months into every new job, that familiar crushing pressure would return. He thought he was bad at picking careers. He wasn't. The loop wasn't in the job. It was in the moment uncertainty arrived. The second a project got complicated, Mark's childhood reflex would kick in. He had to overprove his worth to feel safe. He would work 20-hour days until he hated the company, quit, and looked for a better job. Mark didn't need a new career path. He needed how to learn it to stand in that half second of uncertainty without panicking. There was no eureka moment that fixed him. There was just a series of very quiet, very difficult pauses where a reflex used to be. And in that pause, for the first time in his life, he actually had a choice.
If this feels slightly upsetting, that's actually a good sign. It means we're removing the finish line. There is no final insight that will deliver you from being human. There is no version of you that never loops again. Any teacher who tells you otherwise is selling you a fantasy. Real growth is much quieter and much more repetitive than the movies make it look. A more honest hope is this. When the loop returns, and it will, you return too. Instead of asking, what did I do wrong? Or why am I back here? Try asking, what am I being shown right now? Not as a puzzle to solve, but as a moment to inhabit. Clarity isn't the goal, attention is. When you can stay present with the loop without shaming yourself, the ending of the story changes, even if the beginning looks exactly the same. You stop being a victim of your patterns and you start being a witness to them.
Freedom isn't the absence of the pattern. It's the presence of choice within the pattern. It's that tiny gap between the trigger and the reaction where you realize, I don't have to do this the old way today.
If it's reframed how you're looking at your own stuckness, Share this with one person who is currently beating themselves up for not being further along. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and ring the bell. Not because we have all the answers, but because we're committed to asking better questions. So until next time, think differently, dream boldly, and create consciously.